Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, International Studies family. I'm here with Professor William J. Cunningham, as well as with you right now on the other side of that screen. It's a great pleasure for me to have a chance to sit and chat with Bill today, to share some final reflections, pearls of wisdom with all of our community and our family. Ladies and gentlemen, William J. Cunningham.
Thank you very much, Hans. And I'm very sorry that I could not be at the dinner tonight with you all. I would very much like to be there, but on reflection, it's just my stamina will not permit it. So we have chosen this format instead and I hope you've signed it satisfactory for this evening's event. Hans, what do you want me to talk about?
Well, we need to learn everything we can, so I can do my best not to break it in the years to come. What we're here tonight is as much a family reunion as it is to celebrate your legacy with the center. And so a good place to start, Bill, is what brought you to the center back in 1982?
A telephone call that I was not expecting from Philip Taylor, whom I had met the previous October by telephone only. And his son, he was a Latin Americanist and a PhD, graduate of the University of California. His son was in the Foreign Service and was a senior officer, consul general in Naples. I told him last October that I was looking for a job somewhere. He remembered that. And so when Ann Tiller died, he called me, and I was at a Boy Scout camp someplace. He called me and said, the director of international studies at the University of St. Thomas has just died. Are you interested in the job? And I said, yes. And he said, well, write this letter, make this phone call, stay in touch with me, send me everything you write or call. And he said, he in fact said, I'll guide you through the process. So that's how it all began. In August, I was invited down for an interview with the search committee, which included Professor Tom Crow, who was still on campus. And I think Eamon Ho, the dean of the School of Business, and a few other people like that. Don Hogan is long remembered as a French teacher and a linguist teacher. So I was shown, and the board, chairman of the board of trustees. I was shown around campus, and finally they were satisfied. And I said, when I said goodbye, it was not a decision at that point. I was simply getting on the short list. I went back to New York and waited, and about a month later, they asked me for references. Well, I gave them references for my experience in the Foreign Service, and several academic references also. That has made sure that I had people who were on both sides. About a month after that, in October, I guess, or September, they sent me a contract to sign. And along with it, at the same time, my friend Lou Hofecker from the Foreign Service, who was working for Shell, retired and working for Shell at that time, called me and he said, after a few days, there was no response. He said, well, they're going to take that job or not? He said, it's the one-man consulate, but it's a lot of freedom. So I said, I think I'll take it, Lou. I want to line up a few things here. And so I signed the contract and sent it back in October. And then I was here.
And so it was a new program. or new center.
Well, it was a new program, a new center.
New center. And there was yourself, eventually Dr. Peg Conklin was hired as well.
Transferred from the history department, where she had been teaching under Dr. Tiller.
Okay. After 25 years in the U.S. Foreign Service.
32 years.
Oh, I got my dates wrong, Bill. So 32 years in the Foreign Service. Here you are, a center director, a teacher, a game planner, a budgeter. Everything is now coming onto
Yes.
your desk.
Right.
How did that feel?
Well, I'll tell you, the first day I was on campus, I arrived for study day, 1982, yes. Left New York on January 15th, that was my last day in the Foreign Service. Arrived on that weekend. January 18th, I appeared in Cullen Hall as the new director. And so I went home, met a lot of people, was welcomed very warmly. And I went over to Tiller Hall and went upstairs after the, formalities, the meetings of study there and so forth that afternoon. I went in the hall, I went to Tiller Hall and went up and occupied my office, which was, you could see the stairway from that vantage point. Later I moved. Anyway, nobody came in. And the phone didn't ring. It was totally a different experience from what I was exposed to in New York. So I thought, I went out then, day or two, and started meeting people. And I said, I'm the new director of International Studies at the University of St. Thomas. And they said, is there a University of St. Thomas here? Do you mean the Virgin Islands? And I said, no, on Montrose, down there, middle of town. Oh, you mean the place on Allen Parkway? I said, that's the high school. Oh, well, anyway, what does International Studies do? And so I had to get my routine going, It was like that there were classes going on for that semester. So there were students, and I met them all. And I said to Father Young, well, you want me to teach, but I have to take time to get my notes together and a syllabus together. And so do you mind if I postpone the commencement of my teaching until next year? And he said, that's all right, that's okay. Sorry. So that was my beginning, and I figured this place has got to be advertised, and I've got to do it. So I interspersed my preparations for classes with getting out and meeting as many people as I possibly could, all in the international field, some of them in the consular corps, some of them in other consulates, and so on, and list their help, on a collegial basis, collegial basis, colleagues of the same kind in a different setting. So I did that. There was one day when Bishop McCarthy called me up, and he said, I understand you. As a matter of fact, he wrote me in New York before I got here. And he was the auxiliary for the diocese. And so I called him when I got here in my office. And he said, I said, well, Your Excellency, I'd like to make an appointment to come down and see you. And he said, I'll come see you. Oh, I said, when will that be? Today, now. And first thing he appeared, the wars were going on in Central America, and he had lost a colleague in them, a priest. And he was very exercised about that and the wars itself. So we talked about that and my general position on international affairs and so on. He left giving me a blessing. He was satisfied with the way that I was going to approach the questions before these young people. So that was my introduction to St. Thomas.
And Bill, over more than a decade of being director and all the time since as a professor emeritus, what would you say, if you had to boil it down to the top three, what would you say are the top three legacies that you leave behind, whether it's for the university, the students, the larger community?
The students particularly, because they came to the rescue when the university's financial crisis arrived in 1985. And I was called in by the board of directors to justify this new program, which was not mine. It was Ann Tiller's. I was obligated to her to carry it on. And she was a remarkable woman, but that'll come later in the biography that you and I are going to work on. So the students, so July 1st, the cuts came out. The athletic program was abolished. The school was, the newspapers were full of whining and so forth. I kept quiet. In our office, there had been Linda Peck Conklin, as you say, myself, a secretary, Carolyn Mitchell, 2 student aides, and I think Ben Mathis running the International Institute. As a auxiliary program, that was a night program and day program, half-time semesters for the businessmen, business community, to educate them in doing business abroad. That was eliminated. So I walked into the office, and Carolyn Mitchell was in Emeritus with the Emeritus program. So I walked in, and there was one student aide, Catherine DeSuti, a freshman or sophomore, had just been appointed, Linda Peck Conklin, and myself. So I thought, this big empty building over here on the corner of Mount Vernon, Alabama, is going to look even emptier with nobody around. So I immediately moved to the International Student Society, International Studies Society. I said, come on, you've got office space over here. I moved to the back. They moved into the front. Then I said to the UN, the Model UN, which was still a part of the UN, I said, well, we got another office. You can take this one. Then the World Affairs Council about that time came into was already in being, but it needed an office in a base in Houston. So I gave them a little office that was remaining under the stairs downstairs on Tiller Hall, and we continued, of course, to conduct the courses in the classroom downstairs. So I explained to all the students what had happened, why I was offering them this space. I want activity around this place. I want things life, and going on. And so immediately they moved in. We had a lot of some activist students that year. Enrollment in the program had been more or less flat. Immediately it climbed, and from then on continued climbing. Until I retired, and there were 85 in the program. I had managed to get Linda Peck Conklin back full time in a tenure track position. And because I had to have some help to handle this. I told Linda, don't move out. You know, you've been reduced to part-time. They'll continue your contract for the rest of this year, but then you're part-time. And that means you're paid for only one course or so and what you teach. And but I said, I'll take care of you. I want you here. And so she did. That was a blow, but that was a first example of the students coming to the rescue of the program. And it showed the ones who matter really and appreciated the opportunity.
There's an old, I think it's an old Dutch saying, we grow too soon old and too late smart.
Yes.
What would you like to tell our current students that they should learn sooner than later?
Yes, well, they should learn in the present day's world that they are graduating into a world that is entirely different from any I have seen before, and we have seen in the years since, because the structure of American diplomacy is being demolished right and left. Sadly, very sadly to me, 453 senior officers have resigned, have retired from the Foreign Service, gotten out of the business altogether because they can't get through to the secretary. And the secretary doesn't seem to care. These are people of great value, not because of what they can do, they can do many things, but because of the reputations and the connections in overseas assignments that they have built up over the years. They can pick up the phone, call somebody, he's familiar to them, they're familiar to him, and say, you know, we're going to have this problem, will you help us? That is soft power. That's what we're losing. The reputation of America, the ability to exercise that soft power in our behalf and then on the behalf of the other country, you know. So that kind of structure, and I don't know how this is going to turn out. They have to be prepared, really have to be prepared, as none of their predecessors has been prepared. I think I'm confident that Professor Sindelar is aware of this, knows about it. He is upset by it too. You are upset by it. Everybody should be upset by it. The citizenry, the infrastructure of American diplomacy. What is it going to be like after this? Who is going to rescue it? There's going to have to be leadership from the bottom. For example, our study abroad program is a part of soft power, America's soft power. Our foreign students coming to this country are a part of soft power. They should be welcomed every opportunity. They're dropping in numbers, you know. So I'm very worried about this and how this is going to be done. I'm confident if with the training that we give the students and the pointers that we give them, they will be able to survive. They can survive, and they can survive, as a matter of fact, because the applications for the Foreign Service examination has dropped off. A lot of them are saying, I'm not interested. Well, if you've got less competition to pass the examination now, if you get overseas someplace where you're kind of out of the line of fire, and they never pick off the young people, you know. They go for the biggers. Learn as much as you can in the situation. Figure out whether you like it or don't like it. You're inside the system. It is a system. You're inside it, and you've learned something. You can make a contribution years down the line. So that's how the advice I would give them. And that applies to all the forms of what Professor Sinclair calls corporate diplomacy. In other words, the United Nations, the OAS, all these organizations, international organizations that we have built up over the years are going to survive, or in one way or another.
Thank you, Bill. We're just about out of time. What are your closing thoughts, closing remarks? What would you like to share with our family?
Well, let me see. Don't give up on the United States. It's been through hard times before. It's been through hard times now. The times will get harder before they get better. Don't lose the faith. Keep that faith. And keep that faith, the Catholic faith, alive in your hearts, in your minds. It will guide you through many difficulties in this field in the future, as it has guided me. I've relied upon it constantly. I don't wear my faith on my sleeve, you know, but it's there, and I know it, and I return to it when times get tough, or when times are good, and I say, what can I do? So that's the one thing I would say. The other I would say is, well, extension of the first, the evening, at the end of it, yes, have a vision of what you want to do. It's not a goal, but it's a vision. Keep that vision alive. The goals will, or within it, will become apparent as you move through life. But if your vision is strong and you know what to want to do, you will direct your studies to that and learn broadly, as I did. You know, when a crisis arrives, there's no, you're on the spot. You've got to do something. There's nobody around. I used to say to the students, the office workers, student workers, I'd say, if somebody calls up, I'm not here, they ask to speak to me, well, the boss is not here, but can I take your name and telephone number and the gist of your question, and he will get back to you as soon as he can. Maybe be out of town a day or two. He'll get back to you as soon as he can. In the meantime, is there any information I can give you that would be helpful? That's the American people don't like this, well, the boss isn't here, I can't answer the question, I'm not responsible. Don't give that kind of answer. Go to the limit of your knowledge and then stop there. That will carry you through. And life, you know, in all situations. You'll expand your knowledge, you find you can take more opportunities along. I say the third is seize the opportunity, seize the moment. Be a little brave. Bend the rules if you have to. That's the way I got assigned for Prague to Paris. And I'm glad I did. And I was again assigned to Korea. They offered to keep my job for me. You exercise influence in Washington. I thought promotions come faster on the battlefield. I'll go to Korea. And besides, it was better paid. But so seize the opportunity, and it'll turn out all right if you're smart. You know, I think our students are smart.
Thank you, Bill. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an additional extended interview with Professor Cunningham that we will post to the Center Facebook page shortly. Thank you for your attention, Professor Cunningham. Thank you for your
Hans,
time.
For this opportunity. I've enjoyed it very much, especially speaking to members of the advisory board whom I know very well for many, many years, and those whom I know more recently. I thank them all for what they're doing for the center, I asked them to please help our students and help you with ideas, and it's pleasant to be on an advisory board. I hope they will do a little bit more than be advisors. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.